Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Juan Gonzalez, and on behalf of the City of Glendale's Economic Development Team, I would like to welcome you to the second event in our Small Business Summit Week. The City of Glendale is committed to supporting and, more importantly, growing our small business community. And as such, we've crafted a week filled with webinars and in-person meetups designed to help you grow your business. The week culminates in our first ever Small Business Summit this Thursday, May 18th at the Embassy Suites from 8 a.m. to 2 p.m. For more information about these exciting events, please visit our website at chooseglendaleca.com. I would also like to thank our partner in this webinar, PACE, for helping you grow your business. Together, let's grow Glendale. So I'd like to welcome everyone. Just going to take care of a little bit of housekeeping. Please put your questions in the chat. We have our friends from PACE here who will be monitoring the chat. If you are looking for a copy of the presentation, we will make sure to get you a PDF copy of the presentation. And also after a day or so, the webinar will be posted to both PACE's e-library and the City of Glendale's website as well. So you can go back and check not only this webinar, but other webinars on great topics. With that, we've got a great afternoon with lots of great information for you. I would like now to turn it over to Varduli Andriashian, who from PACE. Take it away, Varduli.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you, Juan, for the introduction. We appreciate this opportunity to be here and have partnership with the City of Glendale and do this presentation. I don't take much of time. I just give a little bit of history about PACE. PACE is, as it comes with its name, Pacific Asian Consortium in Employment. It started initially to help Cambodians, Pacific Islanders, and it is founded in 1976 to resettle that group of people. Eventually, it started to grow, and now we have different departments. We have energy department, we have education department, we have workforce department, and we have business development center where myself and Andrew belong. In the business development center, we help small businesses with the startup, with the one-on-one counseling. We have trainings, we have workshops, we have the opportunities to access the capital. We are like SBA lenders, so we have different resources to help small businesses. So if anyone needs, any type of assistance with their business, please feel free to contact us. I shared all the contact details in the chat. So feel free to contact us and we will be more than happy to help you. I will not, take more time. I would like to welcome Andrew, and Andrew, you can start and, be more specific on the topic. Thank you.
So thank you and welcome everybody that's attended here. What I'd like to add is that our organization, PACE, is a large economic development corporation, and the department that we work in is the Business Development Center, and we have multiple programs under that. We have a Women's Business Center. We have contracts with the City of LA. We also have a GoBiz program that's through the state governor's office of Business and Economic Development. And I manage the Minority Business Development Agency contract. So that's funded through the U.S. Department of Commerce. So I primarily is the point person in helping small businesses that are looking to get contracts with the government, utilities, and private sector. So we're a full service agency. As my colleague mentioned, we're also what's called a community development financial institution. So we're an alternative lender, and we're a referral resource for the Small Business Administration as well. So today's webinar is going to be about small business certifications. And we're going to go over the federal, state, utilities, some of the local ones, county, city, school district, and some private sector. Okay, so as you can see here, we're going to talk about there's different types of certifications, how they're utilized, how to qualify to get a certification. Then you can see the different criteria that I have outlined here. Okay, so the purpose of a certification is that back in the day, let's say 40s and 50s, a lot of the government contracts were issued to the same group of individuals all the time, kind of like the old boys network. And so it was leaving out huge sectors of our society and community: women, minorities, small, rural, veterans. They were having difficulty in penetrating that contracting market. So they passed legislation, almost the feds and the state. And so anytime there's public dollars, public taxpayer dollars that are involved, there is a mandatory mandate that requires the government issuing the contracts to be able to give it out to percentages of these different categories of individuals. And it really comes down to what we call, they were disadvantaged groups. And disadvantage doesn't mean that you have to be poor or something like that. Like, for instance, I have a client who was an attorney, and he was looking to get some contracts in the city of Los Angeles. And I said, well, you ought to go for this disadvantaged business enterprise certification. He goes, well, I'm an attorney. I'm not really disadvantaged. I said, well, how much money did you make last year? And he says, well, I probably did about 5 million. I said, well, would you consider yourself a disadvantaged business compared to a big giant law firm that's doing 300 million? And so then he realized that this is a specialized program to help businesses compete. And so this is a very valuable webinar because certifications could ultimately represent millions of dollars if you qualify and you have the correct small business certification that matches the level of government or utility or company that you're trying to get a contract with. So you can see here, it levels the playing field. And then you see that 6%. So we're estimating that last year in 2022, there was 120 billion with a B dollars in procurement contracts. And that involves the feds, the state, cities, local, counties, utility companies, private sector. So that's out of all that 120 billion, only about 6% are actually disadvantaged businesses, including women and veterans and all those categories that I had just mentioned. So clearly there's a lot of opportunity out there, and just not enough of us are going for it. And so so we're dedicated. Now, this is a scaled down version of the certification workshops that I generally give, but this should give you a very good overview. So what it really is, it's a capacity building contract. Our goal here at PACE is to try to find contractors who are contract ready. That means if you got a contract, you're going to be able to perform on it right away. So that means you have the business infrastructure in place. You have a staffing plan. You have materials. You have the finance that's involved. and in order to scale. Or if you're almost contract ready, then what do we need to do to be able to get your business infrastructure, your business model organized enough that we can start aggressively looking for contracts. So it's a capacity business development program is what it is. So keep in mind, as a business owner, you may be expert in whatever you do. You're an attorney in law, you're a contractor in construction, you're an IT professional in web design or whatever. Okay, but it's equally important that you become an expert in the business development portion and the business management. So with balance, being able to bring a high quality product or service to the table and effective management skills, those are the individuals that generally we see succeeding and starting to scale and going to the next level. And we're here to help you to do that, okay? So now one real important thing is that a procurement officer, I used to be a procurement officer, I had a contract with one of the local cities to help them find a new transportation provider. So for me, or for the city, because I was representing the city, is that I just didn't want to go to the same old companies. I mean, they may be the best qualified and I may eventually select them again, but I wanted to increase the vendor pool. I wanted more, a larger selection. I wanted new ideas, fresh perspectives, new technologies, new methodologies. So for me as a buyer, whether it's a utility company or a private sector company and the government, I wanted to have a larger selection of qualified vendors. And so that's what you can see. But basically right here, these are the types of categories that are classically defined as businesses that need assistance. Now keep in mind, you can be on top of your game, and if you're competing against real large corporations, it's not, it's kind of, there's a disparity there. So this program is here is to help small businesses, is looking to help local businesses, a thing called a local preference. Okay, then you see disadvantaged woman, minority, veteran, LGBTQ. So there's a lot of categories, and there's also rural and some other classifications. So this is how small business certifications are utilized. It basically comes in three categories. One, if it's taxpayer dollars, okay, so utility companies don't really need to do it, and private sector and private corporations don't need to do it either. But both of them are trending to and doing it. But basically, if it's taxpayer dollars, it's mandatory. So you'll see in a minute when we go into like the federal and the county, you start seeing, like, for instance, I think the feds, 23% of all the contracts that are given, and you know they do billions and billions of dollars, have to go to diverse businesses. Let's call them diverse businesses, all the categories. You know, so we need to bump it over. So for instance, like LA County, they have a 23% goal, and they're having trouble meeting the goal because not enough of us are actually getting the certifications that they utilize. And so they hit about 18, 19%. So there's a lot of opportunities still there. And we just need to open our mind, see what's there, and come to organizations like us that can help you source contracts, get the certifications that you need, look and interpret RFPs, and how to propose on RFPs. And that's one of the things we do. But you can see here, they have actually goals, and they can stand. So the small business certification, the small business enterprise certification generally is the highest at 25%. And then we have something like maybe emerging business or a veteran could be all the way down to 3%. But when you look at the volume of procurement opportunities within all those categories we talked about, there's a lot of money there. And so you getting this will help you. It increases the vendor pool. And if you have the certifications on your proposal, you will automatically get extra points And you know, when it comes down to the short list of qualified candidates, that means, let's say it's the top 5 or the top 2 or the top 3, then any of those top candidates, shortlist candidates, can perform. So how do we split hairs and decide who gets it? And we're going to go into that in a minute. Local preference. Now that makes policy, public policy sense. So if I'm operating and I'm servicing the county, okay, or I'm servicing the city, it makes sense that whoever gets the contract is within our jurisdiction. So that means the jobs created or retained are going to be in my area, okay, my constituency. That means that the money being paid is going to be circulated within the community, and it's going to basically, we're keeping the money and the resources and the opportunity to grow and to contract within our geographical area. So that's another real important thing. Same thing. I used to work for a company and they came back and said, hey, we'd like to hire you now that I was on my own to help them with their, to apply for some contracts with LA Community College District. So one of the things is I looked how they scored the proposals, and it said that they gave any proposer a 5% increase in their rating if they were located within a 5-mile radius of any of the 9 campuses. So they're putting their money where their mouth is in essence, because it just makes good common business sense and government sense that people that are getting hired are from our city or from our area, and etc. And the last thing that how certifications are utilized is, it says here, proposal discount, 15%. So what that means is that, let's say you go for the contract and I go for the contract and we're equally qualified, but you put your bid in at 100 grand and I put my bid in at 90,000. So if we're equally qualified, I represent the better value because I can do the same job that you can for $10,000 less. And, you know, especially when it comes to government, they all have very tight budgets. So I represent the best value. However, you have, let's say you have the local small business enterprise certification and I don't. Well, with the county of LA, they're going to give you a 15% discount. So for scoring purposes only. So now your bid that was 100,000 is going to come in at 85,000. And now that makes you the better value for scoring purposes only. So those are the primary 3 ways that small businesses certifications are utilized. Okay, so here you can see there's a lot of different certifications. Please know this. This is going to be kind of a little bit of a wake-up call. You are not going to get a contract because you have a small business certification. You're going to get a contract because you bring in a high-quality product or service to the table. And well, we've had clients and they go get all kinds of certifications. Well, that's not a good strategy either. Because if you're not going to do business with the feds, or you're not ready to do business with the federal government, then why go get those certifications when you think you could do business with the city of Los Angeles or the city of Glendale? You know, so we want to get the certifications that are apropos for that level of government and those contracting opportunities, and then we can scale from there. Okay, because remember, this is a capacity building strategy to help businesses that are contract ready start getting more contracts and larger contracts and expanding to a point where you don't need a contract. But as you can see, there's a lot of different types here. So before you start going and applying, let's put a strategy together that makes business sense and that can help you within you can perform upon. Okay, now the most important thing about a certification qualifying is called the qualifying individual. So let's say it's a husband and wife team and they're both 50-50%. okay? For a woman business enterprise certification, they won't qualify because one of the individuals has to be a woman that's 51% owner of the business. And that, you know, they're the ones that can bind the company to a contract. They're the ones making the primary decisions on staffing and hiring and management of the business. So there has to be a qualifying individual that generally is one of the higher paid persons in the company, holds the highest position, either CEO or president or chief operating officer or chief financial officer. They have to have one of those highest positions within the corporate structure, okay, or the business structure, and that they're the ones that's making basically the bottom line decision. So the qualifying individuals, that's going to run through all the certifications. Okay, there's another thing that comes up often. The state of California and the county and metro. So let's say it's a husband-wife team, and the husband has an engineering degree, or vice versa. Let's say the wife has an engineering degree, and the husband is a minority, let's say, and he's going for a minority business enterprise, and he's 51% owner. But they're going to look at it and say, well, this business is primarily an engineering company. And if the husband who doesn't have the engineering degree is trying to get the certification, they will deny it because they want to make sure that the principal person that with an engineering degree that does engineering, whatever it may be, civil engineering or otherwise, needs to be the main person. So we just need to make sure that some of you that have corporate structures, we need to make that. But let's say it's 2 women owners and 1 gentleman. Well, the 2 women, let's say they all are 33% owner. Well, the 2 women owners represent now 66% of the company, so they would qualify as the qualifying individuals. As you can see, this S over here. Okay, so when you apply for certifications, there's going to be a checklist of documents that you need. Now, the reason for this is that if I'm the agency that's going to certify you, I need to make sure that the people that are applying for this certification are the ones that it is designed to assist. You know, so what we don't want is some big millionaire open up a little cafe shop and applying for a small disadvantaged business. That's not what it's designed. Because potentially small business certifications, especially when you start scaling, can represent millions of dollars. So we need to make sure that whoever gets the certification is who the person it was intended for. And we're going to check. Now, keep in mind, one of the things that a certification reviewer will look at is the likelihood of your success. So like for the SBA, there's a couple of, like for the 8A, which is the real big one for the feds, you have to be in business at least 2 years. Okay, they don't, you know, they want to be able to give these awards out to people that have a high likelihood of success. You don't have to be millions and millions of dollars. We want to get there, okay, but we want to show that we're experts in our field. We have a history of performance. We have a good business model, and we are smart enough and sophisticated enough to realize the value of certifications to help us move forward. So me as a procurement officer, when I see that you went through the routine and the protocols to become eligible to get a small business certification, that makes me feel much better about giving you a contract. All right. But you can see, so they're going to want to see your corporate documents. So if you're a closed corporation or an S corporation, they're going to want to see your corporate books. You know, your bylaws, your articles of incorporation. If you're an LLC, your articles of organization. They're going to see your stock certificates. Okay, they want to see your minutes. They want to make sure that you're who you are, a legitimate business, our target. They want to see your business license. So if you're a construction contractor, I met with a gentleman earlier today, and he wants to go after government construction contracts, and he doesn't have his own contractor's license. He's been using someone else's. Well, he needs to go and buckle down and get his own contractor's license. So, because I need to make sure that, you're going to qualify. You need to be a good citizen, abiding by the law, and the proper checklist of steps that we need to qualify. They're going to want to see your taxes for 3 years. Okay, they're not looking to see how bad business is. They're looking to see, are you scaling up? Okay, are you a legitimate business? Let's see what kind of volume. Because sometimes, like the pandemic, a lot of businesses went down a little bit. But when we look over the 3 years, we could see that maybe they were doing really well before the pandemic. And we're seeing that they're starting to scale again. So that represents that you have a likelihood of success. You know how to make money. And those are the steps that you're doing. They're going to see personal financial statements as well. But you can see here, they're going to want to see a year-to-date profit loss statement and a balance sheet. And maybe you have an accounts receivable schedule. They want to see that. Because look, we need to be more sophisticated business managers. And if we're going to go after $50,000 contract, $100,000 contract, $1 million contract, myself as a procurement reviewer of the proposals, it's a risk that I give it to somebody that doesn't display good financial management skills, business development skills, and performance on a contract skills. So we're trying to, we need to scale. So that's what these things are here for. They're going to want to see a resume. It could be a capability statement, which is a very important thing. We hope to do a workshop on that for you. It's kind of like a resume, not a promo piece. It's a factual sheet. This is who you are and what you do and what your performance has been. But then we want to look at your personal financials. Like I said, no millionaires, because it's not designed for millionaires. Okay, and if you have a business location, we want to see your lease. If you're home base, then that's your lease. Okay, and they're going to want to see a business bank account. We don't want everything going in a personal bank account, because that's commingling, and that's not a good sign for me when I'm looking at an interview and everything's going in your personal bank account. That means that you're cutting edges. You're being a little bit of a sloppy thinker. I want people who are critical thinkers that know the business, that make a clear line between business profits and other types of revenues. So that's what we want to see. Okay, so now let's talk about the federal government. Okay, so the SBA 8A certification is kind of like the Rolls Royce of certifications. Even though the state or the county doesn't utilize this, they don't need to recognize it because that's federal. But if you have that on your capability statement or in your proposal, that shows me that if you went through the rigors, which takes about 4 to 6 months to get, and you got it, that means you clearly understand the benefit of certifications. Because myself as a procurement officer or a procurement department chief, I need to hit my goals that I said, the mandatory goals. And so if I see that you went through this certification process, even though I may not use it, to me, that shows you're a very prudent business manager and you understand how to get business. And that's your business development strategy. Anyway, 8A is basically for what we call historical disadvantaged groups, women, okay, minorities, not yet LGBTQ, but the utilities do recognize that, veterans, rural. So they're looking for groups that have been historically over the years been kind of locked out of contract opportunities. And if you qualify, then you can go for this. Now the 8A is a 9-year program. So it means the first 4 years that they should be trying to help you look and source contracts and go for it. And the next 5 years, hopefully you can take advantage of the certification and meet goals by the federal government that wants them. And there's things like set-asides, and we'll go into that in a minute. That means they have contracts that are just for people that got the 8A certification. And once you've gotten a contract with the federal government and you perform, because I'm going to tell you with the feds, they score the project manager, whoever oversees you for the government on that project, is going to score your performance. That goes into your permanent SAM file. And that's with the federal government's the system administrative management. So, and if you have a high score, and I'm the project manager that worked with you before, or you worked with one of my other colleagues, and you got the 8A and you had a high score, I could just give you the contract. I don't have to go out to bid. Or I could limit the pool of who can bid on this contract to individuals that are on this, that have high scale scores, and 8A. Then there's a hub zone. That's historical underutilized business properties, business zones. What that is primarily around military bases, because a lot of the military soldiers, they don't get paid that much, okay? And, so the economy is a little bit lower there. So we want to help the businesses that are located in there that could be possibly servicing the military bases and other protected zones, okay, that are federally owned, and we can help them. And they all have goals. Then you have the woman-owned small business. Now, the one thing about that is once you get it, you can keep it for life, unless something changes, where you bring in a male and he becomes a majority owner, then you could lose that. All right, but that's and they also do disadvantage and set-asides, set-asides and sole source. So and the federal government buys everything. They buy everything. I don't know, cups, entertainment, catering, IT, security, cybersecurity, construction, clothing, retail products, equipment, they do all of it. So there's great opportunities in the government, okay? And then the veterans, okay? Now what's important here is the body. So the SBA, okay, the SBA is the agency responsible for vetting out applications and awarding these certifications. If you're a veteran, then you go through the Veterans Administration. But those are the agencies responsible for vetting you out. Now, they used to be able to go right to your office and see if you are who you say you are. But with the pandemic, they've been doing things more virtual. And so at some point, they may be going back to in-person visits. But understanding, depending on the level of government and contract you want to go with, then let's find out who is the proper agency within the government that issues these types of certifications. Okay, so here's some goals for the federal. Okay, now I'm spending a little bit of time here on the federal, and you can say, well, I'm not going to do federal business. But the point being is that the steps to qualify and the goals and how the certifications are utilized are basically the same. Okay, but you can see here the 23%, the Fed, they have an internal mandate. I think the federal government last year did $685 million in the state of California alone. Okay, so we know there's a lot of opportunity there. But you can see here, so then you got disadvantaged small business, woman-owned. So even you say, well, that's really small, only 3%. But when you look at $685 million in the state of California, that's a lot of contract opportunity. And like I said, not enough of us are going for it. And they can't count it if you don't have the certification. So it's kind of like, help me help you. You get the certification and you're a highly qualified individual. I'm gonna kind of lean your way because you're helping me out. Okay, so now let's talk a little bit about the 8A. Okay, so the 8A is basically it's a business development program, like I had mentioned. Okay, and what this program is designed to do is to help you develop the technical assistance tools to be able to perform on a contract, to scale, to grow, okay, to become more sophisticated. And so just so you know, PACE, we are a SBA referral resource. So I get all the time, SBA will refer somebody to me to go for the 8A or to help them put proposals together, or even 8A graduates that still need the support and sourcing contracts and going for it. And so it's really a program to support you and give you the technical business skills to contract. Also, you can see here, 8A, they can sole source it to you. Now, what you have here is a ceiling of 4 million. So that means within the 9 years, they can give you up to $4 million in contracts. Just give it to you if you qualify, okay? And if you're a manufacturer, they can go up to 7 million. Sole sourcing. Now, you potentially can make way more than that if you got your foot in the door and you perform and you start scaling. You can make, I don't know, $100 million over a period of time. But just keep in mind. Now, they also have this mentor protege program. And that's a really good program if you can get into it. And I think the applications may have just shut down. Every year they open it up again, where they match you with one of their prime contractors and they teach you the protocols of doing business. So that's a very, very valuable program that they have. Okay, for the 8A, so now eligibility. Okay, so now we're talking about the qualifying individual again. All right, you must be an American citizen or naturalized. So if you're not naturalized, you won't qualify. Okay, if you're a foreign, I have some clients, they're foreign clients and they're highly skilled, but they're not citizens, they're not naturalized. I still try to help them with private sector that's not bound by these restrictions. But if it's with the federal government and the state, I think so as well, you need to be a US citizen or naturalized. Remember, 51% manage and control of the business. Okay, same thing that we just covered. Okay, there's a thing called a size standard that the SBA puts out. Remember, it's not for the big Boeing companies to go in and take advantage of it. It's for small businesses. But remember, a small business could, now the two standards that they use is the annual revenues and the number of employees. And so it depends on your NEX code. For those of you who know what a NEX code is, they set there's a scale. So generally the highest, I think, revenues to still qualify as a small business, I think is 45 million. And I think up to 1,500 employees. It just depends on what service you're providing. But you can see, I think there's plenty of room for us to qualify. We want to get to those places where we don't qualify anymore. Okay, net worth. Remember, we don't want millionaires. Now, they basically will not include your private residence as part of that net worth. They'll exclude that. But if you have investment properties, then that may put you over the limit. Sometimes there's exceptions that can be made, but you can see this. And right here, the business demonstrates a potential for success. We don't want to give it to somebody, a business that's struggling, they're on their way down. I want to help them, but we're really trying to find those healthy businesses that are on the right track, that are scaling, and we want to get behind them, okay? Because they have a higher likelihood of success, of longevity, of scaling, getting more contracts, hiring more people, being more sophisticated in the products and services they deliver. So those are the types of things that we want. And as you can see here, good character. You'll see some of the applications will say, especially if it's a government contract, you need to adhere to the Family Leave Act. So let's say your wife has a child, or your spouse has injury and you need to take some time off. Well, some companies, they're just, they're just kind of like slave drivers and they don't adhere to that. Well, if you don't adhere to it, then you're not really a good corporate citizen. In this program, we want to make sure that whoever qualifies for this program are good corporate citizens and that take care of their labor force and abide by all the laws and are exactly the type of model business that we want to see help. And as you can see, as I mentioned, it's only a 9-year program. Hub Zone, okay, it's the same qualifying standard. The one thing here is you could see, you could also qualify if 35% of your workforce is located within a hub zone, then you can qualify, all right? So you could even be out of the hub zone, but if you, the majority, or at least a third of your workforce primarily are in the hub zone, then that's one of the exceptions. And there's contracts that are there, okay? Woman-owned, same thing, okay? Size standard, next codes, we want to identify that. The 51% qualifying, highest position, or one of the highest positions in the company, you're basically operating day-to-day, full-time during normal hours. Now, keep in mind with this, some businesses, in order to qualify for this, you need to be 100% in that business. Sometimes we have owners and they have this side business and they have that side business. If they find out that you have another business going on and you're going for this certification, that may disqualify you. And we don't want to get disqualified. We don't want to get red flag, because that means they're going to be looking at you moving forward. This stuff is documented. So we want to make sure that the right people get the contracts. Okay, so here's some other things. Set-asides. So set-asides means is, let's say that we have, just for lack of a better argument, I got $10 million in contracts through my department. And I want to put $2 million set aside just for women-owned business or economic disadvantaged woman-owned small business. And that way, because then I could go into the portal system, the SAM, the Federal Vendor Portal System, and I can actually look up who has these certifications and either just give you a contract or limit the pool. So instead of me having to review 50 proposals, maybe I narrow down to only 5. And so those are the benefits that the certification can do with sole sourcing, just give you a contract, or set asides where it limits the competition, which increases your ability. Okay. Okay, so here's the veterans, same thing. Okay, qualifying individual, so service disabled means that you had to have been injured while in maybe the theater of war or support. So that's what the service disabled veteran means, that they were injured. And so that's a certain category. And veterans, they've paid their dues to our country. And so the government wants to recognize them and reward them for their service. Okay, state of California. Okay, here on the very top, you can see eProcure. So this is the vendor portal that the state of California utilizes, okay, to look for contracts. These vendor portals are extremely important and valuable. So you can see here, you want to sell to the state. So you register in there. Now they got next codes for the rest of the industry, but the state of California use what's called United Nations Standard Product and Service Code. And I actually have a link. If you register with us, we'll send that to you. And they can help you look that up. And we can help you identify. It's like a menu. I do this. I'm a plumber. I'm an electrician. I'm a mechanic. I'm a hair designer. I'm an event planner. Each of those categories has a next code or a UN next code, I'll call it. And so once you look at it, you're going to put accurate data. You're going to register as a business. You're going to register as a prime and a sub, okay? Because there could be contracts small enough that you could be the prime, or you could be a subcontractor that a prime contractor could look you up, okay? But as you can see here, right next to the sell to the state is get certified. I'd say register first, okay? And then let's go for the certification, and we'll help you. Now, with the state of California and the LA County government, their certifications are called gender and ethnic neutral. So theirs are like the small business enterprise, or the small local small business enterprise, or the small business public works. So they don't really recognize minority and women categories, but we can still fit you in under those other categories. Because remember, they're for historically discriminated groups of business entrepreneurs and owners to help you. State of California, okay, they have 250 different departments, and each of those departments have procurement needs. They buy product, they need services, sometimes they outsource. You know, right now when the pandemic happened, they needed PPE equipment. There was a lot of opportunity that was there. Okay, so here you can see. Okay, this is a mistake here. It's not GSA, it's the Department of General Services. So that's, but Department is the big buyer for the state of California. And they have the two certifications. Really, the only difference here is if you look down here under receipts for the small business enterprise certification, they'll average your sales for over 3 years. And if it's 15 million or less, you qualify. At 36 million or less, if you're a manufacturer, okay, or you could be a bigger contractor. And so those are the different categories with the state of California. And then they have employees. This may have been adjusted by now, because I just saw that the SBA came out with a new size standard schedule that came out just in March. So we may need to upgrade these numbers, but we will help you, walk you through all of that. Okay, so you can see state of California, 25% of all their contracts. Okay, and the state of California, they do, I don't know, 80 billion maybe a year. So 25% of them, they want to small businesses that have the small business enterprise certification through the state. So they won't recognize if you have one through the city. You have to, if you're going for a contract with the state, they want you to utilize their certification. And then you can see disadvantaged businesses, veterans. Okay. Okay, Caltrans is a little bit different. Caltrans and Metro, they get their money from the federal government of transportation. So that agency is the one that is responsible for issuing the SBE, Small Business Enterprise, through Transportation Department, and the Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. And don't be mistaken, with transportation, these big companies, Metro and Caltrans and Metrolink and high-speed rail, you could talk millions and millions and millions of potential dollars in contracts. And you having an effective subcontractor strategy moving forward is going to be important. But you can see here, so they give you, when you have these certifications, they give you a 5% increase in your bid score. So that's what's real important. Okay, as you can see here, 250 different departments and agencies. And here's like a variety. Public Works Utility, okay? The colleges and universities, you know, those are big buyers. UCLA, okay? Department of Technology, DMV. You know, I have some clients that did landscaping and got a contract for landscaping and maintenance of DMV properties. The state hospitals, okay, Highway Patrol, Coastal Commission, Caltrans, a lot more. So each of those departments, there are a lot of contract opportunities, and you can look up those opportunities in the Cal eProcure site. And I also encourage you to look for closed contracts that are already awarded. That way we can see if they buy what you sell, and we want to look for contract cycles. So maybe that contract was awarded is going to come up for bid in next February. So now, because I registered in the portal, I'm going to get noticed, but I want to be ahead of the game. Okay, I want to say, I know that that contract's coming up, and I'm going to rep up and prep for that. Okay, so here are these specialized programs. Now, these are quasi-federal, because it's the United States Department of Transportation that vets the contractors out and awards it. And you can get the DBE or the SBE certification through Metro or through Caltrans. But you can see through the city of LA, they'll also do something like that. And let's say you want to be a vendor, you want to get a concession stand at one of the airports. Well, that's a transportation or department. And so you can get what's called the Airport Concession Disadvantaged Business Enterprise. And through that. So there's a lot of resources and how to do that. We have that checklist. Okay, we're going to keep it, you know, and remember these certifications, they generally last for 3 years. Some of them you may have to repeat annually, but we'll help you with that when we design a strategy for you. Okay. So, okay, now here's another one's real important. The utilities. Okay, now like I told you, like LA County, you have a 25% goal, and the state had let's say a 23% goal. The utility companies are way ahead of government. There was a thing called the government order GO 156 that one of the local assembly women put in for the state, requiring or asking as voluntary that all these utility companies, because they're quasi government, because we have to, if we don't buy it, we don't get the utility, water or electricity or whatever. You know, phone, you know, utility companies is energy. So that's like PG&E, SoCal Gas, Edison. Okay, there's a lot of energy. Water, there's water districts all up and down the state, and telecommunications, which could be AT&T, Verizon, Sprint, the cable companies as well. So there are billions of dollars there as well. And, you know, so, you know, we want to be able to, so let's say Edison, I believe last year, their contracts, 52% of all their procurement contracts went to diverse businesses, the whole gamut. And the utility company is one of the few that recognizes LGBTQ businesses. You know, that's a large block of sophisticated business owners. And, you know, we want to give them an opportunity. And me as a procurement officer, I want a big vendor pool of all kinds of talented people with new ways of thinking. And remember, I'm the buyer. You're the expert. I need you to tell me what I need to do. I don't want to keep on using the old equipment when you bringing in new technologies and new perspectives and fresh eyes. And there's also a generational thing going on. Okay, I'm a baby boomer. And I'm kind of comfortable with the technology that I was using. But now for me to be an effective counselor or business development officer, I need to learn new technologies and what's in my industry, what do I need to be able to perform? So remember, you're going to get the contract because you're bringing your A game, okay? But these utility companies are way ahead. There's a lot of opportunity there, you know. So you come with us, and we'll help you register, and we'll apply. So here's where the supplier clearinghouse is where you can get certified for the utility companies, and they're actually located here in Santa Fe Springs, here in LA County. So what you do is you're going to go right to do I qualify? Now here they have woman-owned business, minority-owned business, and LGBTQ. certifications. So you will you go in there and you'll answer a list of questions, and if it looks like you're qualified, then let's apply. Now, the LA Unified School District, I will say, will utilize these certifications. They're like one of the few that has reciprocity, that other government agencies will recognize it, because you've been vetted out by a government entity. So I trust with, as a government officer, procurement officer, I trust that you went through the rigors to get this, and I'll accept it. Okay, so that's real important. But this is a supplier clearinghouse. Okay, doing business with the enterprise. So here's their goals. Remember, they're way ahead. Almost all of the utility companies are ahead of goal. There's some that are not, but they have a 15% goal for minorities, 5% for women, 1.5 for service-disabled veterans, LGBTQ. They haven't put goals, but they're putting out certifications. And LA County is also recognizing these. Now, their primary one, and we're going to get into that in a minute, is a local small business. That's a mandatory goal. But the county also has aspirational goals, because they want to try to recruit minorities and women and all these diverse veterans and small and local businesses. They want them to register with them. So they will, if you apply and you have this certification, they'll expedite the certification process for you. Okay, now this is a little bit old, but from 2019, you could see in the state of California, okay, so they issued, well, 3,500 contracts. You could see what, 5 billion went to minorities, 2 billion went to woman-owned businesses, 600,000 to veterans. LGBTQ was like basically 50 million. So you could see there's a lot of money that is being spent. So what? So $8 billion. Okay, here's the county. So the county has. So look, if I'm going to get a contract, I'm going to go after the largest goal, certification goal that's there, because that means it increases my opportunity. So 25%. So I would say, let's prioritize, let's go for the mandatory goals. Okay. City of LA. Okay, so the county does about 9 billion a year, and the city of LA does about 8.5 billion a year. There's a lot of contracts, and these are mandatory goals. So now right here, I don't have it listed here, but there's another one called Emerging Business Enterprise. It's a smaller enterprise certification with the city. But I've seen some RFPs or invitations to bid that were structured only for EBEs, Emerging Business Enterprise. And the reason for that is maybe they're very close to hitting their SBE goals of 25%, and they needed more other goals of women or minority or the EBEs. So I've seen some RFPs that come out for that. So let's go for the bigger gold ones first, and then we can subtly, and you're going to have the packet of everything you need, then we can start applying for other certifications if it makes business sense. Okay. Okay, Metro School District, so PACE happens to sit on LAUSD's Small Business Advisory Council Board. And in the school district is the second largest in the country. They do multi-million dollars in contracts every year. And every election, you see bonds that are coming up that are funding school projects. And keep in mind, all the infrastructure is getting old. Look at all the schools. Some of the schools that I went to are still there, still look the same. Well, I know they need to be retrofitted, or they need new construction. Okay, so or there's expansion. So we need to see that there's. So we want to register in their vendor portal, and the school district will actually accept any of the major certifications. They'll accept it. So there's some reciprocity there as well. Okay, now private sector. Okay, now these certifications will cost you money, roughly about $600, maybe a little bit more, depending on the size of your business. Okay, and the two major ones is the National Minority Supplier Diversity Council. Okay, and they only issue a minority business enterprise, but nationally. Okay, and then there's WeBank, the Woman Business Enterprise National Council, and they also, so their certifications are national. And as you can see here, they fundamentally, do business with the Fortune 5000, which also includes utility companies as well. So, and if you think about it, even though private sector companies or corporations don't need to recognize certifications, we are seeing a trend that they're doing that. And the reason why, okay, is that because they're getting access to our communities, because we're spenders, we're consumers, we're skilled. And so they want to find us, and they're looking to penetrate our markets. They're looking to expand their vendor pools. So, and if you can see here in this next one, same basic qualifications, 51%. There's a qualifying individual. So if it's a woman, if it's WeBank, you have to be 51% owned and operated by a woman and controlled. If you're a minority, same thing. So that penetrates all of the different certifications. Okay, that's the same thing here for the Minority Business Council. Okay, but you can see here's some of the kinds of corporations. Now this certification is only good for 1 year, then you got to renew it. Okay, and now one thing that came up last year, there was an assembly bill, and I should know the number, that requires all the clinics, hospitals, and large clinics that they also need to start issuing contracts out to diverse businesses. So, and right now, they're also taking, if it's a legitimate one from the state or from the county or the utility company or the feds, you got that certification, they'll accept it. And healthcare is a growing industry. It's one of the growth industries. Our population's getting larger. Our baby boomers are starting to increase as well. There's a lot of contract opportunity, and they buy everything. Okay, but you can see here, Toyota, Chevron, that's transportation. Disney is a very inclusionary company. Bank of America, Walmart, JPL, Bank of America. Let me just tell you this. There's a special program that monitors all the banks, and it is called the CRA, Community Reinvestment Act. So the federal government makes it mandatory that banks have to spend, I think, up to 2% of their gross annual revenues in giving back to the communities that they're getting the money from, which means they have to have diverse individuals in their employee and management pools. Okay, the types of products that they provide to the lower income communities or all communities. Okay, and contracts that they award out. And my former company that I used to work for, we had contracts back in the day when WAMU was, Washington Mutual was there, and Wachovia, we had contracts because they needed the CRA credits. And what's important about CRA credits, if the bank wants to acquire another bank, or they want to do no new products, or they want to move to a new location, if they don't have the CRA credits, they could get denied. And so banks are very, very important. But the banks, I took a client, I have a friend that works at a bank, he's a CRA officer, and I took one of my clients to see if they can do business in managing some properties during the crisis when the properties were being foreclosed on. And my friend, who was a senior vice president told my clients, go and get the minority business certification through the Supplier Diversity Council, and then we can do business. So keep in mind that these things are real, and they can lead to a lot of opportunity. And with that, that's basically the presentation. This is a little bit abbreviated from the other ones that I do closer to 2 hours. But I want to thank everybody. And if we have any questions, I'm here to answer.
Thank you, Andrew. We had a couple of questions that I have tried to address those questions during, the session. So, but I would welcome, everyone. If you have any question, if you want to speak, you can unmute yourself and ask the question. We can give a call. I know we are going over the time, we had. It's over like after 3 p.m., but still we can spend a couple of more minutes. If you have questions, you can write it in the chat box or Q&A, or if you feel to ask your question, feel free to unmute yourself and ask your question. So Annie said, thank you very much. Very informative.
Look like a couple come in.
Okay, there is a question. Carla asked, where can one get help filing out the 8.8 application, women-owned, minority-owned certification?
Well, you can come to our company, you enroll, okay? Depending on what your revenues are or where you're located, we can enroll you into one of our numerous programs. Primarily it's going to be either the GoBiz, through the state governor's office of business and economic development, or through my program. If you're a business of $500,000 or more, you could qualify the MBDA, but we work as a team. And so we work, if you're looking for procurement and certifications, we can help you. We have other counselors that can sit down with you, and we can walk you through the process.
Yeah, I shared the contact details in the chat box, so feel free to connect any of us with us, and then we will help you. Okay, let me see. There's a question asks, what qualifies as an EBE? I think this is emerging business enterprises.
Yeah, so that's a designation that the city uses for smaller businesses that are starting to scale. So they're small growth businesses that there's starting to be a demand for their kind of services. It's a little bit easier to qualify for an EBE than for an SBE. They also have one called small local business enterprise. And with that, all you need is an application, a business license, and 1 year's taxes. But they're for businesses of I think under $1 million in sales. And so just depending, but that's what an emerging business is, a kind of a growth industry and a small business that's has a market in that industry.
There is another question, which Juan, I think, this is more coming for the city of Glendale. It's like Katie asked, interested to be certified with the city of Glendale. We are certified CA state small business, CBE owned, women owned, local small business with LA County, and certified with supplier clearing house. Where do we start? Thank you.
I would reach out to us at the Economic Development Office, and we can take it from there. And
Okay.
my contact info has already been dropped into the chat, but our phone number 818-548-2005.
Okay. And let me see what else. Actually, I am sending the information there on the chat box. Please just you can take it. We are on because customer stamps. If I already have a There's a question. It says, if I already have an small business like enterprise certificate, any need for an EBE?
Well, no, and well, it depends. So if it's with the city of LA, whatever certifications are relevant to your business, then it may be worth getting them. Okay, because when you get certification with the city of LA, they automatically put them into your file, okay, your registration information.
There is one more question. Beatrice asked, what would you recommend for professional service businesses that are almost contract ready?
Well, now we got programs under the Woman's Business Center, and you don't have to be just a woman that can go through that program, is we have an entrepreneurial training program that walks you through the entire process of how to scale, okay? But, we can meet, sit down, and let me see what you got going on. And, do you have a performance history? So keep in mind, to be awarded a contract, they would like to see businesses that are in existence, that you've made an equity injection into your own company. You know who your clients are traditionally. You have a high quality product or service, and you're at a position where you're looking to scale, or we want to find new types of markets for ourselves. And new markets could be either new products or technologies or service categories that we're doing, or geographically. So we just need to see what your business model is, and clearly if you already have a client base and you know how to access that, we can help you expand that. And so keep in mind, one of the main things that procurement officers look for are companies. Remember, giving you a contract is giving a loan. If I have a $1.2 million contract that I represented for, I have a fiduciary duty to make sure whoever I recommend to get that contract, or the short list of individuals, that they can perform. Because I got to protect the money, and it's taxpayer money, and I got to make sure you can perform. So what ways? Well, I know that you do. Let's say you do a list of 10 things. And then you also can provide me a list of contracts that you've worked on those. And, so now I know that not only you say you can do it, but I've seen that you've done it. And, but we can help you. Now, keep in mind what's real important there is maybe there's something in an RFP that you could do 80% of, but 20% you can't do. And you say, oh man, I'm not going to qualify. Well, no, because we can either hire the talent, or we can subcontract, or we could joint venture. So let's take a realistic look at your company, what your ability to perform right now. And sometimes it may be just a matter of you waiting 3 months or 6 months or next year. So we just need to see where we're at and what do we need, and what we don't want to happen is, like, I had a client that had a contract with the feds up in Ventura at one of the U.S. Forestry Services, and they remodeled a snack shack, and they did so well that the project manager came back and said, hey, I got $1 million project I want you guys to work on. Well, unfortunately, they didn't have the bond capacity to perform on $1 million project, and they lost the opportunity. So we need to be strategic thinkers, have a good growth strategy plan, and if it takes that we need to bring in somebody else, because once I brought in other partners, my contracts got bigger. I hit a point when I was working for myself that I just couldn't I was getting a lot of small companies, and I just wasn't making the money. And I just, and I made some errors in how I planned new contracts, and we landed a real big contract that didn't pay nothing. And I didn't figure I didn't have to go after new contracts, and that was a mistake. And I paid for it, that's why you got some of these gray hairs here. So but keep in mind, we need to have a good strategic plan, a business development strategy that allows us to make progressive steps and see where we are going and try to put ourselves in the best positions to scale to be able to perform on those contracts. If you come and see us, and we can work with you and do an individualized type of strategy with you.
Okay, I think we addressed all the questions, and I am going to send everyone, all the attendees, a copy of this presentation, and I will share the contact details for everyone. So feel free to contact us if you have any question, if there is anything you need assistance. Feel free to contact any of us, and we will be happy to work with you. I don't want to take more time. This is already, we are already 3:15. So thank you very much, everyone. I'm like Juan. I let you do the closing of the session. Thank you.
Thank you, Vardui. On behalf of the City of Glendale's Economic Development Division, I would like to thank Andrew and Vardui for joining me this afternoon. Do not hesitate to reach out to them or to reach out to myself for assistance or questions. We would like to thank everyone at PACE for their support in organizing this webinar that is part of the Let's Grow Glendale Small Business Summit. Again, I encourage you to visit our website at chooseglendaleca.com for more information about all the great stuff that is going on this week. Thank you all for joining us, and we look forward to seeing you on future webinars. Thanks a lot, everyone.
All right, bye.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye-bye, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.